Great. So my name is Garren. I have my own company called Red Comet Labs. And just a kind of a warning beforehand, when I kind of did the practicing of the speech to try and get the perfect version, obviously I work from home and pants are strictly optional. And the best version I've done is when I've been standing just purely in my underpants. So if I get really nervous and I kind of lose my way, I'm just going to have to get into a space that I'm really more comfortable with. Okay. All right. So when I was kind of coming to this Rubyfuza, I was kind of going, what can I talk about? I spoke last year and I thought, well, cool, what have I learned in the last year that would be something interesting that everyone here would actually learn about? And I was kind of thinking of some cool new tech, and then I saw that Rory once again was doing a talk, and I can't let that guy outrun me again, so I'm going to have to do a talk again. And then I realized that the most interesting thing I've done this year is I've bootstrapped my own product. And there was a lot of journey and adventure to that, and I thought, well, maybe that's actually something people would want to learn about. So I created a product, and it's called Classroom 7. And basically, the product is designed for trainers. They can be in any kind of industry, but it allows them to reduce some of the admin they do around training, but kind of put some of their courses online and be able to kind of generally look way cooler in front of their clients and their learners. And I thought, well, maybe what I can do is kind of tell everyone the experience I went through and the way we kind of failed initially and then kind of got a little bit better, and hopefully inspire anyone that is thinking of bootstrapping a product or anyone that hasn't thought about it at all. Maybe you can start thinking about bootstrapping a product, or if you've actually kind of tried to bootstrap and you've kind of failed horribly and kind of don't know where to go again, maybe we can kind of help you. Maybe some of the ideas I've got here, I can kind of help you get going again. Now, talking about failure, that's kind of how I started out. Probably about 2.5 years ago, Shelly, my wife, and I, who's hiding out in the corner there right at the back, decided that we wanted to make our own product. And we thought, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of pool our collective ideas and we're going to make a product. We're going to make freaking millions, and we're just going to like hang out at the beach and do nothing. And we thought, how hard can this be? We've got a great idea. We're going to do it. We're going to be brilliant. And so basically, Shelly was in the training industry. So we said, all right, cool. She does training. I do web development. That's super convenient. We'll make a website. We'll use some of our stuff. We'll put it online, and people are going to love it. It's going to be an instant hit. Walk in the park. And so with this big idea, it's kind of like if you've ever like written your first song and you kind of step up onto an open mic session. You're like, cool, I'm going to sing this song. People are going to love it. I'm going to be signed up. It's going to be mayhem. People are going to love it so much. And we thought, well, we'll start a little bit slow. We'll start a little slow. And we said, all right, cool. We'll send this out to some of our family members and say, hey, guys, check out this website. We've got a little demo. We've got a little app. You can sign in. You can check out this thing. It's going to be cool. And kind of the general response back from our family was like, it's nice. We're like, okay, that's not too bad. It's kind of like if you kind of got a bit of feedback on the monitor speakers when you're playing. It's not too bad. You can kind of push through that. You can keep going. So you're like, cool. So after all of this, you're like, I wonder if anyone else has ever done this. Let's do some research. And we kind of looked on the net and we're like, oh, wow, tons of people do this shit. You're like, crap, that's inconvenience. These people have got tons of courses and stuff. It's going to take us forever to compete with these guys. So you're like, okay, that's like snapping a string if you're playing. You're like, oh, wow. We're getting a little nervous, a little uncomfortable at this point. We thought, okay, what we'll do is we'll tell all our friends. So we like told all our friends, guys, go check out the website. You're going to love it. It's amazing. And it was just like crickets, no response. Everyone's like too busy, couldn't be bothered. So we're like, okay. So we thought, right, before we completely give in on this, let's go and do some sales. So we said, right, we went and we know some people in the industry. So we went and we did a sales call. And we're like, hey, check our product. We do this, this, and this, and this. And they're like, okay. Yeah, okay, that's cool. They're like, okay, well, if we were to do this, how much would you charge for it? How much would be sales? We're like, well, what would you be interested in paying for? And they're like, well, huh? So we're like, okay, so we kind of left that meeting, and we kind of felt, does this work? Oh, there, the ideas kind of faded as we go along. And we kind of felt like that guy, except I didn't wear a suit, so it wasn't that bad. But it was definitely tears. And we're like, okay, maybe we haven't quite got this on track. Maybe we don't quite know what we're doing in this point. Let's sit back a little bit. Let's do a ton of research. Let's do some reading. Let's chat to as many people as we can. And let's put the original Classroom 7 version 1, let's put it on hold and think about what we're doing. And one of the things we realized, well, specifically me, was that I was spending too much time just thinking as a pure developer. Awesome fun developing the application, but everything else, I was like, oh, can't someone else just sort that out for me? Can't they just make that happen for me? And to be kind of a successful bootstrapper, I realized you actually got to develop a ton of personalities. You don't have to take drugs or anything to develop them, just requires a bit of practice. And once you have a whole lot of them, you start looking at your business and your product from those different personalities, you actually find that you make a little bit more progress. The other thing we also realized was that we'd started off really wrong. We kind of started out with this fantastic concept of coming up with this massive idea. And like often you're often told what you need to do. You need to go out into the desert. You need to inhale anything that burns and just like come up with like this fantastic idea. You're going to come up with the biggest idea. No one thought about it. It's going to be amazing. And that's actually really the most difficult way of doing it. It does work sometimes, but often when people are successful that way, it's more of the edge case than kind of your standard way of doing it. So if you do have a really great idea right now, I want you kind of just to like picture it in your mind, think about it, think, wow, that thing's amazing. I'm going to make millions. I just got to spend the time doing it. And then I want you just to like kind of blow it up, throw it away. It's not really a great way of starting. There's a much easier way of doing this and kind of set you up through the whole process a little bit easier. And that's where we kind of introduce our first personality. And the first personality is just like a dude that's an investigator. And what you need to do is actually go out and find an audience. And when we mean by an audience, what you're trying to actually look for is a specific group of people within a profession. So developers as an audience, there's tons of audiences within a developer. So you can look at people that are learning Rails for the first time, or people that use CouchDB, advanced JavaScript developers, any of those kind of people, and you want to find out more about them. You want to meet them, obviously. It's quite nice because we are developers, so that's quite easy. You also want to kind of find out things about information about them. The one thing you want to avoid, though, is try and find people that are in certain audiences like hobbyists. If you want to make a product and sell it to your World of Warcraft mates, that's probably not a great idea, not initially. Another one is kind of big corporates or big like government organizations. Yes, in South Africa especially, you can make a ton of cash like that, but it takes a long time. It's a big process. And as a bootstrapper, you're obviously running on a small amount of money initially to kind of pay the bills, and you don't have the time to make that kind of sales call. So let's sit those guys out for a little bit and kind of look at that. Now, once you have an audience, in our case, we looked at trainers. We knew trainers quite well. We knew where on the web we could find information. There's forums, blogs, chat places. And we also knew the people kind of, especially in Joburg, that were doing training, and we could speak to them and tell them stuff. At this point, we had an audience, and we now needed to find out what kind of products we could actually do. Now, there's a person called Amy Hoy, and she comes out with a great way of defining two different types of products that people always want to spend money on. And that's also important with an audience. Make sure you find people that literally want to throw money at you. They're literally like, oh, this is an amazing product, I want to buy it. If at this point you're kind of thinking, cool, maybe what I'll do actually, if I want people like that, I'm going to get myself a van, I'm going to head out into the desert, and I'm going to cook crystal meth. Maybe. Talk to me later, but it's not on this part now. One of the great kind of products, again, not drug-related, surprisingly, is products that are painkillers. What you're looking at is a product that kind of removes that repetitive kind of pain that people keep doing. If you have to do something every day at your job over and over again and it's really boring, that's kind of really painful. Or if there's something you don't know and you need something simplified like accounting, there's a great package to help you with accounting. That's a painkiller. It reduces that kind of pain that you have working on it. So that's kind of one kind of idea you can look at. In our case, for like a training audience, their pains are doing things like registration, creating reports on their training, doing assessments and marking assessments. That was kind of what we identified in our audience as things that were really painful and boring for them to do. The other thing that people like buying is products that are money multipliers, products that help people make more money. So especially in this case, what you're looking at is a product that helps people offer more or additional services to the clients they currently have. The other thing it does is actually sometimes you're looking for a product that frees up time. So instead of spending one day doing really boring admin, they can do it in an hour and spend the rest of the day charging their clients and making more money. Again, people are going to be really happy with that. So in our case, with the trainers as an example, a lot of the time they do spend, they have training, they might do face-to-face training, but they can't offer, say, assessments online afterwards or offer additional training or additional resources to their clients. So that's what we kind of realized was something that people could make more money on. Also, admin takes up a lot of time. So instead of someone spending a whole day doing reports and giving feedback back when they're doing training, what they actually do is we could reduce that time and they could spend more of that time actually charging their clients or finding a way to make more money. So we did quite a while of this. We did quite a bit of research, and we realized, and we kind of came down to kind of 10 products. Now, when I use the term 10 products or products, it's quite loosely based. You don't always have to think it's going to be this gigantic, complex web application. Often, what we're talking about is like it can be an ebook, it can be a little screencast, anything that is something that people would be interested in. I mean, who hasn't bought a screencast on like Backbone or anything else just to kind of improve their skills? I mean, everyone wants to learn new things, and that's kind of a painkiller, understanding and get better. So that's definitely a type of product. In our case, we decided we wanted to build a web application, and we realized we wanted to build kind of, kind of web application, a little bit more complicated, but we had a little bit more time, and we realized that's a nice place for us to start. The one thing that we kind of always often fall into a trap, especially as developers, is like, oh yeah, let's build something that's cutting edge, let's build something that's amazing. And the problem with that sometimes, a guy called Norm Brodsky, who wrote the book The Knack, he describes it pretty well. He says, he's pretty conservative, but he says he'll never move into an industry or create a business in an industry that isn't at least 100 years old. Now, it's a little difficult in software because we haven't been around that long, but what he's saying is you don't want to create a product that you have to educate the market on. So you don't want to spend like 6 months explaining to people, guys, this product's amazing, this is how you would learn, how would you use it? You want people to actually know how to use it from the beginning. A great example of that is Twitter. I don't know if everyone, like when I installed on Twitter the first time, kind of messaged my mates in the office and be like, yeah, okay, cool, Twitter's like MSN, we'll just go back to MSN. This doesn't really make much sense. And it was only much later, once the kind of more education pushed through, that we realized, okay, yeah, Twitter's a great product. Now, as a bootstrapper, you don't really have that kind of time or money to kind of spend going around educating people on what your product is. So just be a little wary around that. So at this point, we're kind of like changing personalities. Now we're into the developer personality, and that's definitely my favorite one. We're like, yeah, cool, we've got a great product idea. We're going to build it. I can build it with anything. I'm my own boss now. This is going to be amazing. I'm going to use everything. I'm going to use every NoSQL database there is, specifically just one thing at a time. This is going to be awesome. And then I realized if I went that route, it's going to probably take me 3 years, and I'm going to be well out of my money by then. So we kind of then found that, and I'm not a big fan of the word, but it does fit, is kind of creating that minimum viable product. Something that's small enough that you can start selling, but not overcomplicated. And we kind of decided to build something that was really simple in the beginning and grow it. And things that helped me do that was to use automated testing, automated deployments, anything that could help me build faster. Rails obviously is fantastic for that. Doing web applications with that stuff saves you days, saves you ages. And so that was really nice. And just building things as quickly as you can so you can get it out there in the market. The other trick is to speak to as many people as possible. I chatted a lot to Chris Spring. He was really helpful and kind of giving me ideas on how to build my app. He saved me also tons of investigations. Glenn from Cielo and his team were also fantastic. They helped me with kind of building my infrastructure. Glenn gave great business advice. And just using that network of friends that you've got and just trying to get great ideas from them. And they help you out, makes a big difference. At this point, while we were building it, we kind of had this like a bit of stroke of luck, and it was really cool. We'd kind of told a lot of people that we were looking at building this application, and eventually had someone that came up to us and said, hey, this is really cool. I'm need to use something like this. When are you going to use it? How much are you going to charge for it and everything like this? And we're like, okay, yeah, we've been down this road. We need to do a better job. And Aaron stole my joke here, but you beat me to the elephant joke. I was a little bleak there, I must admit. Almost booed you at that stage, but I thought maybe that would be a bit rude. So realized we need to address this elephant in the room. We need to come up with a decent pricing model, something like that. So then you've got to switch personalities again. You've got to be that inner estate agent. Some of you might be like, whoa, estate agent, what? But you need to be able to know how to price your product. Now, pricing isn't exactly the easiest thing in the world. It takes a bit of practice. I was doing contracting at the time, and for me, contracting is really easy to price. You kind of give an hour rate, you set up how many hours you've worked, you send the client a bill, money appears in your bank account. It's pretty sweet. But with pricing a product, it's a little bit different. You actually have to draw a line in the sand and actually say, this product is going to cost this amount of money. So with us, what we did, and it's something I can really recommend to you, is actually don't be shy to be a little bit expensive. It's not the end of the world. And there's a lot of advantages to being expensive. The one main advantage from that is that you can actually build a sustainable business. Selling your app for 1 cent is cool, but you need like 1 million people before you're actually making any money. And the other second benefit is that every time you do a sale, even if it's purely online or if you're visiting people face-to-face, it takes time. It takes meetings. It takes answering emails. You want to be able to make sure that every time you actually do make a sale, it's actually worth the money. It's actually worth it. Otherwise, you're going to spend the whole month chasing sales and not being able to actually spend time doing development. The final one, and it's a little bit weird, but it's the way human behavior almost works, is that we create anchors. So if you set your price high, people automatically assume your product's really good. I mean, why do we pay so much for a MacBook? I mean, come on. So that's what we automatically assume. So if you start charging a fair amount of money, people automatically, and as long as you keep delivering on that, they assume your product is really high quality. Kind of weird initially, but it actually works. The next thing we found is that pricing wasn't actually a big issue with our clients. You kind of came in and said it's going to cost you this much for this, or this much for this many users. That's how much it's going to be. And they were like, okay, cool. And they actually had bigger questions about other things. They were more interested about, were we definitely going to have the system up? If we went overseas, would we shut the stuff down? They had all kinds of other different questions. So my advice, if pricing a product, do a bit of research, look at the other competitors, find a place you like to fit amongst them, kind of go with your gut feel and go with that pricing, and then rather spend your time giving your clients the premium product that they're actually paying for. Now we've moved on from the estate agents, and now we're going to become a salesperson. Because at this point, this was definitely for us in June last year, we kind of launched the first version of the product. We had a pricing model. We were like ready to sell this. And sales is always kind of intimidating, especially when it's way more fun to sit in front of your computer, do some coding, play some StarCraft afterwards, and then kind of relax for the evening. Now you actually have to interact with people. And even worse, you have to interact with people that don't do computers. You're like, oh, do you check the new iPad app? Oh, okay, never mind. Okay. So initially, that's a little bit intimidating, but it's not nearly that bad. The trick is all the research you've done beforehand. If you're looking at, if you've done your research on your audience, you kind of know how to chat to them. Not in a kind of a slimy, manipulative kind of way, but you kind of understand them a little bit more. And we found specifically there was two really nice ways to interact with our audience. The first one is if we were meeting trainers, instead of kind of just sitting there and as excited as we were and tell them how amazing our product was and how many features it had and it's going to solve their world problems and literally they'll never go hungry again, we actually found it easier to actually talk to them first, ask them questions and find out what are their problems, what are the things they're struggling with. So in our case as trainers we go, okay, so how do you do assessments? How do you do report generation? How do you take register? Once they start telling you, oh man, I hate doing assessments, it's a pain in the ass, they write on paper, I've got to read this guy's weird ass handwriting, it's a mission, I do it at night, I should be watching Spin City or something, oh that's a bit old. But anyway, don't know why that came to my head. Anyway, should be watching something that's actually been done recently anyway. Don't know where that came from. And then the other thing is, so you can find out the kind of questions they have and then be able to show them the problems your product is solving and how much easier it's going to make their life. The other thing to do is often you're going to meet people that don't do training. And people are always interested to know what are you building or what kind of product you have. At that point, don't ask them questions about training-related questions because they're going to be like, huh, what? So rather than just kind of tell them about your product, tell them what is the aim of it, what are the problems it's trying to solve without kind of being a little bit weird, and kind of hounding them about it. But the moment that happens, you kind of create this networking. And those people go, okay, that's really interesting. I've got a friend of a friend who does training. I'll let them know about you and maybe put you in contact. And we've had that work for us fantastically and get set up with different kind of people that we could meet. And it's that whole networking thing of just paying it forward. When someone needs a little bit of help from you, you can pay it forward to them as well. Now, once you kind of got that sale, you got the kind of the personality that I'm not a big fan of, and it's always kind of painful, but it's kind of being that inner bank manager, actually learning to manage your cash flow. Now, when we started this product, I'd saved up a bit of money from doing a whole lot of contracting. So I had a bit of money in the bank, and then every month it would kind of disappear as we weren't kind of initially making the right amount of money. And that's quite scary. But you've got to just manage that. And it's important to kind of know how much money is coming in, how much money is going out. And the also really important thing of a bank manager is when you have those kind of weird moments, you go, let's just build a product. Let's not worry about money. We'll make money one day. We'll worry about money at another time. Or this product is going to go viral. We don't even have to worry about money. We're just going to sit back and the checks are going to be in the post. That's when you need that kind of bank manager just to kind of remind you and give you a bit of a clap and say, listen, you actually need to think about that now. The other thing I found in the kind of really practical situation, you use something like FreshBooks. I don't know if anyone here is using FreshBooks. That's really nice in the sense of just helping you to invoice, manage those things like that. And it's a great example of a painkiller and a money multiplier. A guy, I talked about him earlier, he wrote the book The Knack, Norm Brodsky. He's got some great advice on kind of managing your cash flow. The next thing you want to be, personality, is kind of that customer service superhero. You want to be able to listen to your customers, and you want to be able to help them in the best way possible. Now, this isn't always initially as easy as it sounds. We've got one client who's fantastic. He does more demoing of our product to his mates and everyone else than we have to do. It's actually quite fun. But he often has lots of feature requests. He's like, oh, Garren, please can you do this? Can you implement this feature? It's going to be amazing. Can you do it like this right now? We're going to need it straight away. And often when he comes through with feature requests, he's creating it in a context of what he understands it. So he often kind of comes up with a solution that he thinks would fit, but often it doesn't. But what you actually got to do there is actually evaluate what is he telling you. What is the problem he actually genuinely has, and how's the best way to solve it? Because often the way he recommends is not it, but his heart's in the right place. You just got to try and solve it a little bit better and make it a little bit more sense. So with your customers, it's really important to listen to them and evaluate really what they're saying and try and help them as quickly as you can, but in the right sense of the way, in the right way. The final kind of personality is to be that librarian. And that's really what I mean by that is like trying to keep continuously learning. There's tons of good books there. I can recommend two of them for you. One is called The Knack by Norm Brodsky. I've mentioned it like 2 or 3 times already. That is fantastic. There's another book called Design is a Job by Mike Monteiro. It's actually all about design, but it's really practical tips about building a company around design. So just kind of remove the word design and put in bootstrapping, put in contracting, put in consulting, and it literally applies to everything. Another thing I went on was a course by Amy Hoy called 30 by 500. Not the cheapest course in the world, but really interesting. I learned a lot from there, and she's got a really great blog called Unicorn Free. I really recommend checking that out. The other thing we did is just chat to as many people as we knew that were building products, were running products, and just kind of ask them questions about how they've done it. No one's ever started out and it's been a smooth cruise the whole way. So it's just kind of getting to know how did they overcome their problems, how did they do something differently. And that's it. I really hope anyone is thinking about it to really go for it. It's a really fun adventure. And if you have any questions, now would be a good time. Thanks a lot. My details there. Cool. Any questions? Otherwise, I'll be here the whole week. You can give me a shout. You can spam me as well, I guess. Great. Thanks a lot.